Welcome to this weekly English news bulletin on Ronahi TV. Mehmet Öcalan spoke to Digital News Agency about the details of the meeting he had with his brother, the Kurdish leader Abdullah Öcalan, in Imrali Island on 18th of November. The Kurdish leader spoke during the meeting about the developments in northern Kurdistan and Rojava. The PKK leader reacted to the reports of some Turkish media outlets and government officials about the suspension of the guerrilla withdrawal process by saying, "This is a quite fragile subject. The withdrawal was suspended because of the fact that the Turkish state and government prepared no legal ground for this process. This is also the reason why the process is continuing this way now." The Kurdish leader Öcalan stressed that the negotiation process should be grounded on a legal frame and said, "We are ready for negotiations. There is no problem on our side, but the Kurdish question is not an issue that could be resolved with unilateral steps. The process which can only make a progress with the contribution of the Turkish state. I am neither hopeful nor hopeless about the resolution process." Öcalan also revealed during the meeting with his brother that the state delegation visited him on Imrali Island. Öcalan conveyed to them during the meeting his vision on how the process should continue. Öcalan commented also on the approaching local elections of March 2014 in Turkey and northern Kurdistan by saying, "The elections should be grounded on the co-chairing system and an elected politician should not become candidate more than twice." PKK leader also saluted the democratic political struggle, the stance and resistance of the people of Rojava, and remarked that the interim transitional civic administration should be enrooted together with all components of Rojava. The co-president of Kurdistan Communities Union Executive Council, Jamil Bayiq, stated in an interview with Özgür Gündem newspaper that Iran, to satisfy Turkey, has executed 3 Kurds. He also addressed several important facts regarding Turkey's role in the war in Rojava.
In an interview with Özgür Gündem, Bayiq said the Iranian government wants to forge alliance with Turkey against Kurds. He affirmed that the recent diplomatic wars against the Kurds have been led by Iran. The recent executions are the result of a planned politics, he said, and continued that they are not random events. He confirmed that Iran wants a continuous war in between PKK and Turkey, as assumes that they can only restrain dominance of United States and Israel in the region on that way. Bayiq affirmed that although the conspiracies against Kurds planned by these governments have been defeated, yet Iran wants to collaborate again with Turkey. Thus is executed Kurdish political prisoners. However, they don't consider the fact that their conspiracy had already failed, uniting again against the PKK. Bayiq mentioned that the First and Second World Wars in the Middle East ended up with lack of a political status for the Kurds. We are now facing a Third World War in which Kurds are not in the same position as before and will attain their political status in the current shift in the Middle East. He assured that the Kurds are the main players in the Middle East. This confirms that a new Middle East would not be formed without Kurds and the PKK. He is optimistic about the presence of Kurdish liberation movement in Rojava, West Kurdistan, saying the movement will assure peace for all peoples in the region apart from al-Nusra and the Islamic State of Iraq and Levant organization. He also believes that the Kurdish movement do not only secure safety and security for the Kurds, rather it will achieve it also for Syrian government, USA and Russia. Bayiq addressed several important facts regarding Turkey's role in the war in Rojava, stating, "Most members of the ISIL are from Iraq. 2,000 prisoners who fled or were released from the Iraqi prisons have been positioned themselves in this organization. Other members are from Chechnya. The leadership of this organization is in Istanbul, organized by the Turks. The leadership includes 2 Chechnya and 1 Iraqi. The Turkish intelligence service has assembled them up in Istanbul and formed the leadership of the organization. In fact, it is Turkey in which conducts this organization and leads them to war against the Kurds in Rojava." He exposes that this organization has members from all over the world and trains their members in Hatay, Dilok and Riha. Apart from Turkish government, Fethullah Gülen movement and Hüdapar organization partake in trainings and sending out members to Kurdistan to fight against Kurds.
On 22nd of November, the Kurdish institution of Brussels, Center Maurice Copiters, and the Belgian Senator Karel van Lauwe organized a conference at the Belgian capital of Brussels, which discussed the future of Kurds in Syria. The conference titled Which Future for the Kurdish Regions in Syria, organized by the Kurdish Institution of Brussels, Center Maurice Copiters, and the Belgian Senator Karel van Lauwe. The conference, supported financially by the European Parliament, took place at the Belgian Senate in Brussels. The Kurdish question in Syria was discussed by PYD's co-chair Saleh Muslim and the spokesperson of the Democratic Union Party Khaled Isa. The Belgian Senator Karel van Lauwe, who was one of the organizers of the conference, spoke also at the conference about Rojava revolution. Karel van Lauwe spoke to Ronahi about Rojava revolution, where the people of Rojava took a different path to struggle for their political and cultural recognition.
Well, I think it's good that they choose for the third way. I mean that they didn't were in favor of the regime, but not in favor also of the jihadi militias over there. So we need to support a peaceful way of dialogue in Syria. When the Kurds are following this way, the peaceful way to more democracy, to respect for human rights, to recognition also of their rights, cultural rights, identity rights, I think that is the right way to follow. So we hope that in the future there is a dialogue between the different parts in Syria, and that is the reason why we need to support the way the Kurds are following.
On his part, Doğan Özgudun, the Turkish journalist and publisher, spoke at the conference about the role of Turkey in Syrian conflict and Rojava revolution. Doğan Özgudun spoke to Ronahi about these Turkish policies and its contradicted policies towards Kurds.
For me, this is the result of the expansionist policy of the actual regime in Ankara. Because since they came to power, they have already dream to be the super power of the region, especially the region of the Near and Middle East. In that context, they say give the orientation all the regime of the region, c'est-à-dire Syria, Iraq, etc., etc. Maintenant, for the time being, they are supporting the anti-Assad forces in Syria, but they don't support the anti-Assad Kurdish forces, only the Islamist or the jihadist forces. This is a big contradiction. And as for the last meeting in Diyarbakir with Barzani, I think that it is not a good event for the peace of the region, because the Kurdish people in Turkey is combating it since a very long time, but the representatives of this fight were not present at this meeting between Barzani and Tayyip Erdogan. I think that this was a big manipulation.
Ludo de Brabander, Middle East expert and war correspondent Rudi Franks spoke also at the conference about the international actors and their allies in the Syrian conflict and the role of the media. Ludo de Brabander, Middle East expert and member of the Flemish Peace Movement, alongside with Rudi Franks, Middle East journalist and a member of the Flemish Broadcasting, were also speakers at the conference. The Middle East expert and member of the Flemish Peace Movement, Ludo de Brabander, explained at the conference the international actors on Rojava, Syrian revolution and their allies. In this regard, Ludo de Brabander spoke to Ronahi about Turkish policies in Syria and Rojava and the consequences of these policies on Turkey.
I don't think Turkish role in the Syrian conflict is very constructive. Turkey plays a game of a regional power and is, let's say, using its territory, or let's use its territory for shipments of arms. It's also well known that lots of international jihadis cross the border from Turkey into Syria, and we know that Turkey is at least closing an eye to it, or maybe worse, is helping it. So they support financially, militarily, a certain part of the opposition. I think this is fueling the war in Syria and not bringing a solution. Yeah, as we have already seen in the beginning of this year, of course, allowing all these jihadis crossing the border into Syria and back makes it also unstable in certain regions in Turkey, mainly the Hatay region. We have seen in Hatay, in the city of Reyhanli in May, a bomb attack which made like more than 50 people died in it. And so more and more the destabilizing effects of Syria in this way can also happen into Turkey. So it's not in their interest in the long term, I think.
On his part, Rodi Franks, the Middle East journalist and the member of the Flemish Public Broadcasting, spoke at the conference about the role of media in the Syrian Rojava revolution. Rodi Franks spoke to Ronahi about his last visit to the Kurdish neighborhood Sheikh Maqsoud in Aleppo city. Tell us more about your experience in Sheikh Maqsoud, the Kurdish neighborhood.
Maqsoud. I mean, it was in a certain way, it was completely destroyed at that time because there was heavy fighting going on. They just, quote unquote, liberated Sheikh Maqsoud, the Kurdish militia there, and it was abandoned. Only the fighters were there and people were fleeing, but at the same time it gave a mentally relaxed impression. I don't know if I'm clear about that. It showed me that these people had a different DNA, a different view of society than when I was dealing with the Islamist groups in other parts of northern Syria. I mean, the women were not veiled. The women were the commanders in groups. And everybody was quite. You sensed that there were other values at stake there, but you also sensed that sooner or later this would clash with the Salafi group, which happened, by the way.
At the end of the conference, a statement was issued by organizers on behalf of the participants of the conference, in which they welcomed the democratic efforts and progress made by the Kurdish people of Rojava. This conference welcomes the democratic efforts and progress made by the Kurdish people and their neighboring communities in the areas of Rojava. This conference asks the international community to recognize the Kurdish Supreme Council as diplomatic representative of Kurdish community in Syria. This conference asks Belgian authorities, both regional and national, to exercise political pressure on those neighboring countries of Syria who refuse to open their borders for emergency relief and medical aid. This conference condemns the attacks on Rojava by both the regime forces of President Assad and jihadist militia linked to Al-Qaeda like Jabhat al-Nusra and the Islamic State of Al-Iraq and the Sham. This conference acts on the conviction that it's up to the Syrian people to decide on the future of their country and that the fate of the Syria shouldn't be decided by all the different international actors who are meddling in the Syrian civil war. The Executive Committee of the Democratic Union Party issued a statement on the declaration of the interim administration of Rojava, in which they stated that 35 different parties, civic and social organizations joined the administration. The Executive Committee of the Democratic Union Party stated that most of the components of Rojava actively participated and played an important part in the Rojava Syrian uprising. Since the withdrawal of the Syrian regime forces from most of the regions of Rojava, which was due in part to the people's great struggle to oust them and also to the regime's exhaustion in its war against the Free Syrian Army and extremist Islamist groups in big cities like Homs, Aleppo and Damascus. The peoples in the region have organized themselves within social, cultural and political structures to administrate themselves and run their affairs democratically and peacefully. The statement also revealed that 48 armed groups attempted to exploit the power vacuum in Rojava and constantly attack the Kurdish areas. They also committed massacres in Tel Aran and Tel Hassel. As a result of the alarming situation in Rojava, the components of Rojava began holding meetings to find a solution to the continuing lack of security in the region. The meetings, which lasted for 6 months, resulted in a conference that was held on 12th of November, in which the interim transitional civil administration of Rojava was announced. The Executive Committee of the Democratic Union Party revealed in the statement the names of the 35 parties, civic and social organizations from all components of Rojava who are taking part in the interim administration. As a result of 6-month meetings with different parties, civic and social organizations of different components of Rojava, the interim joint transitional civil administration was formed. The components joining the administration are Kurds, Arabs, Assyrians, Syriacs and Chechens. The following political parties and organizations are joining the administration: Syriac Union Party, Syriac Youth Union, Syriac Cultural Association, Syriac Women's Union, Syriac Academics Union, National Coordination Committee, Syrian National Bloc, Arabic National Commission, Communist Labour Party, Kurdish Leftist Party, Kurdistan Democratic Party, Kurdish Democratic Left Party, Kurdish National Democratic Gathering in Syria, Kurdish Peace Democratic Party, Kurdistan Liberal Union, Kurdish Syrian Democratic Party, the Star Union, Syrian Women's Initiative, Human Rights Activists of Western Kurdistan, Civil Peace Committee, Democratic Union Party, Shorash Organization of Women, Management of the Diplomatic Relations of Western Kurdistan, People's Council of Western Kurdistan, Kurdistan Democratic Party in Syria, Organization of the State for Society and Citizenship, SARA Organization for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, Syria's Future Youth Gathering, Communist Party of Kurdistan, Movement of Democratic Society, Supreme Kurdish Council, Center of Strategic Studies, Kurdish Students' Confederation, Revolutionary Youth Movement, Young Women Revolutionary Movement. The Executive Committee of Democratic Union Party ended its statement with saying, "We ensure that the formation of the interim administration in Rojava does not carry any separatist intentions. Its aim is to send a message of peace to the entire region." Since the announcement of the interim administration in Rojava on 12th of November, the people of Rojava started to show their support for the administration. Moreover, the National Syrian Coordination Committee for the Forces of Democratic Change showed their support. The National Syrian Coordination Committee for the Forces of Democratic Change showed their support to the administration of Rojava and confirmed that it is the right of all the Syrians to govern themselves in liberated areas. On its part, the Coordination for Free Life Party of Kurdistan PAJAK released a statement in which the party says, "We support the administration declared by Kurds in Rojava." No doubt that was a very important move in the history of our national struggle in all parts of Kurdistan. In meantime, 65 intellectuals, writers, politicians of different nationalities, religions from around the world have supported Rojava Revolution and its new announced administration in a statement. According to the statement, the revolution in Rojava and its administration serve democracy in Syria. The people of Rojava showed also their support for the interim civic administration of Rojava. In Afrin region, thousands marched in the city. Culture and Arts Center in Amuda City has organized a celebration in its center with the attendance of Amuda citizens. After the announcements of Rojava administration, the Revolutionary Youth Movement of Tarbes region organized also a celebration in Sinjak area. The Democratic Union Party's co-chair Salah Muslim spoke to Ronahi TV about the concerns of some Syrians, regional and international powers that the Rojava administration is a move towards autonomy. Muslim commented also on their insistence to participate in Geneva conference under the umbrella of the Supreme Kurdish Council.
Because we are benefiting from the historical experience, in Lausanne. The Kurdish people, they were joined the Lausanne Agreement and Lausanne Conference inside the Turkish delegation. They couldn't get anything. And then the Kurdish man who joined this conference, anyway, he said, you have to bury me on the road because I want everybody to see what I had done, because he felt that he has cheated his people. We don't like to be like him. We don't like to be like him. No, not all, at all. They are not justified at all, because ruling ourselves. Just for our matters, for our daily needs, for our planning. If we are organizing ourselves, it's our right. And especially, we have some other organizations, they have organized, established the same. In Raqqa, for example, Islamic Emirates, nobody said anything about it. And also in Al-Bab, in Aleppo, nobody talked any word about it. Because the Kurdish, why is everybody is against it? So it's unfair, we don't accept it. And if they come to see, and because I've discussed some people, I discussed the Turkish people. I said, this is the reason, and what we are going to do is so and so. They said, okay, you're right. And at the end, for political reasons, they say, no, not all, at all. They are not justified at all.
Sina Mohammed, the co-chair of People's Council of West Kurdistan, who is participating in Rojava administration, spoke also to Ronahi about the administration and said that the aim of this administration is not to separate Syria.
This democratic administration in Syria and in Rojava, Kurdistan, it's really an important step. Our system is to make democracy in the Rojava, in the Western Kurdistan, and our system is built on the democracy that means to share everybody who is living in Western Kurdistan, the Arabs, the Syrian, Ashurians, everybody living with us in our region. We have joint administration. So this joint administration really enrich the administration and make everybody share, and that everybody has his rights to rule and to be representative in our Western Kurdistan. I want to say to everybody also, to the regional forces, regional countries, everybody in the world also, that this administration doesn't mean to separate Syria and to cut some lands from Syria, as they say. It's a really wrong idea. We are building a democratic system in Syria, that Syria is in a new constitution. It must be democratic, a pluralistic Syria. So because of that, we are not going to separate the Syria. We are living in this land, in our region, 1,000 years ago together, and again we are again acting this role in the region, in the Kurdish region in Western Kurdistan.
Lucina Kathman, the international vice president of PEN International, has sent an open letter to the President, the Congress, and the people of the United States of America, in which she explained why the Kurdish autonomous region in Syria, as she described, should be welcomed.
According to Lucina Kathman, vice president of PEN International, the Rojava interim administration is a positive move. It parallels the creation of the autonomous Kurdish region in Iraq 22 years ago, a change which has proved to benefit everyone. The Kurdish region in Syria also arises during a long war from which the Kurdish region has largely kept out. Efforts to recruit the Kurdish people to one or another side of the conflict have not been successful, and the new autonomous region is dedicated to maintaining this neutrality. Pictures of female Kurdish defense forces have crowded the internet since July, when they took up arms in droves to protect their territory from the al-Nusra forces. Al-Nusra has now largely been repelled from Kurdish territory, but at the cost of many lives, including the lives of many brave young Kurdish women. These women and their brothers should not die in vain. In Iraq, the Kurdish people created a pocket of peace and prosperity. Now, there are favorable cultural and business exchanges, international flights to Erbil, all positive benefits that peace and development bring, even though the rest of Iraq remains in turmoil.
The Turkish border guards killed 3 Kurdish villagers from Himo village of Kamishlo city when they tried to cross Rojava northern Kurdistan border on 17th of November. In this regard, the Democratic Society Congress of Northern Kurdistan called on the Turkish government to end its attacks on Rojava.
3 villagers from Himo village of Kamishlo city have been killed by Turkish border guards while crossing the border, crossing from Himo village of Kamishlo to northern Kurdistan Nusaybin. According to some reports, the killed villagers passed through a mined land and reached the Silk Road as they tried to enter the Nusaybin district of Mardin city at around 1:30 a.m. on 17th of November. The 3 villagers lost their life after being shot by Turkish border guards from an armored vehicle. The bodies of the villagers were taken to the Forensic Medicine Institution of Malatya, and on 19th November the bodies were sent to Rojava, whereafter the bodies were buried on 20th of November. The Kurdish human rights organizations of Rojava have called for immediate investigation into the killings, while the Democratic Society Congress of Northern Kurdistan declared in a statement that those who failed to break the will of people with mined lands are now trying to maintain this policy with bullets. We're calling on the Turkish state and government to end its attacks on Rojava and offer a hand of friendship to the people of Rojava.
The 25th of November of each year since 2000 is designated as the International Day of Violence Against Women. On this day, governments, international organizations, and non-governmental organizations raise the public awareness of violence against women. Historically, the date is based on the 1960 assassination of the 3 Mariable sisters, political activists in the Dominican Republic. The killings were ordered by Dominican dictator Raffaele Trujillo. In 1981, activists marked November 25th as a day to combat and raise awareness of violence against women more broadly. On December 17, 1999, the date received its official United Nations resolution. The United Nations International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women is an occasion for governments, international organizations, and non-governmental organizations to raise public awareness of violence against women. Kurdish women, like others, are exposed to different types of violence. To draw the attention to the need for continuing action to eliminate violence against women, the women of Rojava started organizing different activities. Not a day passes by without hearing about the death of a woman or the suicide of another, whether by self-immolation or other methods. These women resort to suicide to save themselves from squalid living conditions, to wash away shame, or as a result of the customs and traditions prevailing in the province. The practice of female genital cutting performed in parts of Kurdistan is a type of violence the Kurdish women are exposed to. Human Rights Watch reported that female genital cutting is practiced mainly by Kurds in southern Kurdistan. Reportedly, 60% of Kurdish women population have undergone this procedure. These numbers do not include dozens of cases of sexual assault and honor killings. Despite all efforts to change this reality, the Kurdish women and women worldwide are still at risk of honor-based violence, forced marriage, child marriage, female genital mutilation, and domestic violence. On 25th of November, various activities will take place around the world to draw attention to the need for continuing action to eliminate violence against women. The women of Rojava will say also no to the violence against women by organizing different activities. In Rojava, the Star Union, with cooperation of the Syria Women's Union, started with their activities on 22nd of November, which will last till 29th of November. According to the statement issued by the Star Union, November 25th will this year witness various activities in Rojava, including forums, meetings, and rallies. All the women from different components of Rojava will participate in these events under the slogan, "Let's work together to face the macho mentality." Despite all the challenges, the people of Rojava are continuing to govern themselves after liberation of their areas. The next report reviews some of these activities.
In Terbespiyeh region, the Institution of Kurdish Language has distributed certificates to students following a course of the Kurdish language of 2 months. These certificates have been given to 7 groups consisting of 89 students, including 1 group of mothers. This ceremony took place in Mashuk village of Terbespiyeh region. The Confederation of Kurdish Students held its semi-annual meeting in Kamishlu city with attendance of its members from different cities of Rojava. The students assessed their achievements for the last period, and series of decisions were made on the future. Moreover, the Confederation members assessed during the meeting the accession of Confederation members to the ranks of People Defense Units since the declaration of general mobilization of People Defense Units. The Syrian Women's Initiative has opened its branch office in Western District of Kamishlu city. The representative of the following organization attended the opening ceremony: the Star Union Organization, Sara Organization for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, Syriac Women's Union, the Democratic Union Party PED, Women's Center for Training and Awareness, Young Women Revolutionary Movement, Kurdistan Liberal Union, the Kurdish Democratic-led Party in Syria, Kurdish-led Party in Syria, and the Kurdistan Democratic Party. The Women's Initiative was formed by the Star Union in March 2013, which is an umbrella of women of Rojava from different components. Islamic and Christian scholars in the city of Derek held a meeting to discuss how to strengthen the coexistence among all components of Rojava. Arabic, Kurdish Muslim clerics and Christian clergy of the Chaldeans and Syriac Orthodox in Derek city attended the meeting. As part of the campaign, the Democratic Society movement started in Serekania region to assist the people in the region to organize themselves. The movement assisted the citizens of the Arabic Tel Al-Ziyab village to form their People's Council. Tel Al-Ziyab village was one of the villages liberated by People Defense Units from Al-Qaeda affiliated groups in an operations launched on 1st of November.
Let's move on now to the press review.
The daily newspaper, the Bulletin Constitution, published in Oklahoma, said in an article that it is time for U.S. to embrace Kurdish self-determination. Our own government's attitude toward the Kurds remains utterly ambiguous despite abundant evidence of their commitment to political and social liberalization, desire to modernize, and despite manifold disappointments, friendliness towards the US. If we insist for whatever reasons on remaining engaged in that troubled region, it would be hard to find more deserving and effective partners. Tim Marshall, Foreign Affairs editor, wrote for Sky News about the latest developments in Rojava and said, "Momentous times in Kurds' struggle for state." Syria's Kurds are taking on Al-Qaeda as they prepare the ground for an autonomous Kurdish region. While Jamie Detmer wrote for the Voice of America about Turkey concerns from the Kurdish independence movement in Syria, and went on saying the announcement last week of a provisional Kurdish regional government in northeast Syria is worrying Turkish Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan, and he has sought the assistance of Iraqi Kurdish leader Masoud Barzani to help him stop it. The International Business Times wrote about the Rojava Revolution and said, Kurdish communities lead silent revolution in Syrian Rojava region and have experimented with a third way. The Washington Post wrote about Turkish policies towards Syria and said, Turkey confronts policy missteps on Syria with rise of Al-Qaeda across the border. This was not the outcome Turkey wanted, acknowledged a Turkish official who spoke to Washington Post on the condition of anonymity because the subject of Syria is so sensitive.
That's all for this week. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.